Welcome to my virtual presentation. I'm Dr. Kibet from the Center for Open Distance and E-Learning, Machakos University. I want to welcome you to my virtual presentation, and kindly you can subscribe my video channel to enable notifications. You can also like or even share these videos. The topic of my presentation today is Bruner's theory of language development. According to Bruner, there are some qualities of language acquisition that the human brain is automatically programmed to acquire, and some that are shaped by the particular language environment in which a person is raised. Children are born with an innate biological endowment that enables them to acquire language. This is aided by social encouragement through social interaction with adults in the environment. Information derived from the social context in which language is experienced enhances the child's language learning. This serves as a support system which backs up the child's predisposition, that is the biological endowment, to acquire language. This support system is referred to as the language acquisition support system, LAS. Language is experienced in the context of familiar routines and shared activities which are repeated over and over again. Through these activities, the child, using their innate ability, is able to deduce the different features of language, including vocabulary, grammar, word meaning, with assistance of familiar adults. The support system provided by the interactional context in which language is experienced helps the child to learn how to use language for communicative purposes. At this juncture, I want us to look at Jerome Bruner, 3 modes of representation. Jerome Bruner came up with 3 modes of representation. These are the enactive representation, which is action-based, the iconic representation, which is image-based, and the symbolic representation, which is language-based. I want us to begin with the first one, which is the enactive 0 to 1 years. This is the first kind of memory, and this mode is used within the first year of life, corresponding with Piaget's sensory motor stage. Here, thinking is based entirely on physical actions, and infants learn by doing rather than by internal representation or thinking. It involves encoding physical action-based information and storing it in our memory. For example, in the form of movements such as muscle memory, a baby might remember the actions of shaking a rattle. This mode continues later in many physical activities, such as learning to ride a bike. Many adults can perform a variety of motor tasks like typing, sewing a shirt, operating a lawn mower, that they would find difficult to describe in iconic, in brackets, picture, or symbolic, bracket, word form. The second mode of representation, Bruner calls it iconic. This is between 1 to 6 years. Here, information is stored as sensory images, icons, usually visual ones like pictures in the mind. For example, this is conscious. Others say they don't experience it. This may explain why, when we are learning a new subject, it is often helpful to have diagrams or illustrations to accompany the verbal information. In this stage, thinking is also based on the use of other mental images, known as the icons, such as hearing, smell, or touch. And lastly, the symbolic stage, mode of representation, 7 years onwards. This develops last, and this is where information is stored from the form of code or symbols, such as language. And this mode is acquired around 6 to 7 years old, corresponding to Piaget's congruent operational stage. In the symbolic stage, knowledge is stored primarily as words, mathematical symbols, or in other symbol systems such as music. Symbols are flexible in that they can be manipulated, ordered, classified, etc. So the user isn't constrained by actions or images which have a fixed relation to that which they represent. Now, I want us to look at the importance of language, according to Bruner. Language is important for the increased ability to deal with abstract concepts. Bruner argues that language can code stimuli and free an individual from the constraints of dealing only with appearances to provide a more complex yet flexible cognition. The use of words can aid the development of the concepts they represent and can remove the constraints of here-now concept. Bruner views the infant as an intelligent and active problem solver from birth, with intellectual abilities basically similar to those of mature adults. And lastly, I want us to look at the educational implication of this theory. Bruner believed that the aim of education should be to create autonomous learners. And the purpose of education is not to impart knowledge, but instead to facilitate a child's thinking and problem-solving skills, which can be transferred to a range of situations. Specifically, education should also develop symbolic thinking in children. Readiness. Bruner opposed Piaget's notion of readiness. He argued that children waste time trying to match the complexity of subject material to a child's cognitive stage of development. This means students are held back by teachers as certain topics are deemed too difficult to understand and must be taught when the teacher believes the child has reached the appropriate stage of cognitive maturity. Brunner's spiral curriculum. Bruner adopts a different view and believes a child of any age is capable of understanding complex information. Bruner explained how it was possible through the concept of the spiral curriculum. This involved information being structured so that complex ideas can be taught at a simplified level first, and then revisit at more complex levels later on. Subjects should be taught at levels of gradually increasing difficulty, and hence the spiral analogy. Ideally, teaching this way should lead to children being able to solve problems by themselves. And finally, the discovery learning. Bruner proposes that learners should construct their own knowledge and do this by organizing and categorizing information using the coding system. He believed that the most effective way to develop a coding system is to discover it rather than being told by the teacher. The concept of the discovery learning implies that students construct their own knowledge for themselves. The role of the teacher, therefore, should not be to teach information by rote learning, but instead to facilitate the learning process. To do this, a teacher must give students the information they need, but without organizing for them. So that marks the end of my virtual presentation today, where we have been discussing about Bruner's theory of language development. If you like my video, kindly subscribe to enable notification whenever I post a new video. You can also like or even share my videos. Thank you.